창작 영어 동화 바다 거북이 은혜를 갚다 The Sea Turtle That Repaid Kindness. An unbelievable incident occurred over 30 years ago. This is the miraculous true story of Captain Yang and the Sea Turtle. One day, Captain Yang, a crew member, was aboard the cargo ship Mason, and he stumbled on the deck in the darkness and fell at dawn into the cold winter sea. He was a fisherman from an island village of Koje of South Korea, but he wanted to sail the seas and get to know the wider world. He wanted to become a sailor, but he was too poor to attend a maritime college. But he got a chef's license with the culinary skills he had learned from childhood and was able to board the ship as a cook. Because of his dream to sail, his friends on the ship called him Captain Yang. On the day of the accident, the Mason was carrying wheat from Southampton, England, and was on its way to the port of Karachi of Pakistan. The Indian Ocean that he fell into was a deep sea of unknown depth. And the accident occurred in late February. It was very cold winter. In the dark and ice-cold sea, where the surroundings could not be known, Captain Yang shouted with all his might, "Men overboard!" But at that time, the cargo ship moved towards its destination without realizing that he had fallen. Facing his death, Captain Yang pictured his family. They are just his dear old mother and his young wife, a newlywed bride. Now only death awaited him. Then Captain Yang remembers the Korean proverb, "Even if you are attacked by a tiger, you can survive if you stay alert." Yang had learned to swim in his island village from a young age. He was determined to not drown at the sea far from home. Just when he felt he could swim no more, just at the moment he was about to let go of his life. At the very moment, something unbelievable happened. He suddenly felt his body rise upward. Captain Yang felt something holding his body up from the water. He first thought it must be a rock or reef, but he felt the reef under him move. It was no reef. It was in fact a giant turtle of 1 meter in length. Suddenly, Captain Yang recalled a story he had heard when he was a child in his hometown. It was that sea turtles have a habit of floating on the water
instead of
diving into the sea when their necks are grabbed. With all his might, Yang sat on the turtle's back and held the turtle's neck tightly. On the day of the incident, the crew of the Mason were waiting for breakfast. They only searched the dining room, engine room, and warehouse for their chef. After realizing that he had fallen overboard, the captain went back to ship's course, frantically looking for Captain Yang. To be very honest, finding someone who may have disappeared at the sea is near impossible. It is just too wide and deep. But they did not give up and went back the way they had traveled. At that time, several sailors who were looking with their telescopes noticed a tiny dot on the horizon. They ran towards it and looked and looked. My goodness! It was no other than their friend, Captain Yang. The turtle could not be seen, so the sailors only saw Captain Yang. He had survived all this time, floating on the water. They shouted, "This is a miracle," and cheered. As the crew got closer with their lifeboats, they saw Captain Yang was not alone. Immediately upon seeing the turtle supporting him, they could not believe their eyes. On the day of the incident, Captain Yang got up early in the morning to make breakfast for the captain and crew. It was around 5 o'clock. The crew found him at around 11 a.m., about 6 hours later. Captain Yang had spent more than 6 hours in the dark and icy waters, but had survived. The turtle was his saving angel, his guardian of the sea. Captain Yang and the sailors brought Turtle to the deck of the Mason and thanked it. They placed a bag of rice around its neck and released it back into the sea. Captain Yang's chest and stomach were badly torn. The oysters and clam shells attached to the turtle's back must have scratched him, but it was those shells that had held him kept awake. The Mason continued her voyage, unloading cargo at her destination, the port of Karachi. Captain Yang was then able to safely return to his hometown. What could explain this miracle? The only explanation is the owner of the Mason, on which Captain Yang had aboarded, released many live young fish into the sea every year. Of course, young turtles were included too. This ship's owner did not say much, but it is said that his eyes filled with tears. Even now, Captain Yang is said to miss the turtle, even though the scars on his chest have faded with time. Perhaps Captain Yang and his descendants will never hurt turtles, and the old turtle of the Indian Ocean will remember his human friend.